World War I cost its participants approximately $209 billion. Before the US joined the conflict on April 7, 1917, the Allies had already bought US weapons on credit. To be exact, $3.5 billion in credit, in the form of government obligations held by private US investors. But it didn't end there. Remember how private investors would put their money in stocks, bonds, and securities around the world? In order to pay for US arms, the Allied governments requisitioned nearly $4 billion in US railroad bonds, common stocks, and other securities from their citizens and sold them back to American residents. In total, that added up to a $7.5 billion shift in the United States' net investment position. This meant that, by the time the US entered the war, Europe was on its last legs financially. It didn't have the cash to buy any more US weapons, and it didn't have the collateral to offer up to borrow more through US banks. So, one of the first acts of Congress after the United States declared war was to vote through government funds to give as loans to the Allies. Within a matter of weeks, Congress authorized a $3 billion loan. A Treasury bulletin summed up the purpose of this loan: for the Allies to do the fighting that otherwise would have had to be done by the American Army. Because if the American Army had been the one in the middle of combat, then the US would be losing not just men, but money, and there wouldn't be any getting either of those back. Congress also had a rationale for making loans to Europe instead of simply freely pitching in American resources to the common Allied cause. And it was that the Allies shouldn't get out of paying for funds if American citizens hadn't. After all, the funds had been raised from the American people. And if the Europeans would pay back every penny, then the US government wouldn't have to worry about hiking taxes in the future to get it all back. That was episode 3 of a series I'm doing on Professor and economist Michael Hudson's Super Imperialism, the Economic Strategy of American Empire, which you can check out to find out more. And stay tuned for part 4.